That was a very interesting river decision by everybody.
I mean, he could have instantly regretted.
Hello. Triton Poker Series is a goldmine of great poker hands played on the highest level possible. Today I've chosen two very interesting river spots, so without talking too much, let's jump into the action. Our first hand today takes place on early levels of 200k Invitational on pro side. Action starts with a raise from Roman Hrabec on early position with pocket aces. He got called by Jonathan Jaffe on the big blind holding pocket queens. We can see that on very deep stacks it's preferred action by the solver, but he could consider 3-betting them too. It gets tricky when we get 4-bet in that spot, and also it's not the easiest hand to play out of position, so that's why solver likes the call more. On the flop, Hrabec did c-bet with a small sizing, and when we look at GTO ranges, we can see that it's a good board to bet with the whole range, using mostly smaller sizing. He has a huge range advantage here. Jaffe makes a call, and this is also the best play here. When we look at different combos, we see that queens with club or spade are good candidates to raise, but red queens should end up as a pure call in this situation. Turn brings one overcard that opens more draws. This is a spot where a player in position should polarize his range and start using bigger sizings, and overbet is the most used one. Solver always overbets with red aces here, so good job by Roman. Against such a big bet and having a very wide range, big blind should fold 2/3 of his hands here. He should continue with all top pairs and better, some of the best draws, and should fold some second pairs already. 10 on the river is a very interesting card. Big blind should have more trips here, because overbetting the second pair on the turn by in-position player is not a thing. Solver likes the idea of donk betting, but is never using this sizing, using mostly a block bet one. After this bet, Roman went into deep tank and finally folded. This looks ridiculous, but if we look very close at the GTO range, it actually folds some red aces here, so it's not a disaster. It's very player dependent. If he thinks that Jaffe isn't bluffing enough here, this fold gets much better. On the other hand, if a big blind value bets many worse hands, like ace-jack, king-jack, and also finds some random bluffs, this fold becomes very bad. This is a nice example of value bluff, where queens should get called by some worse hands, for example ace-jack is always calling, and fold out some better hands, like kings or even aces. It's too hard for me to judge, but according to the solver, everything in this hand except river sizing is a part of GTO. Our second hand starts with a raise from one of the shortest stacks on the button and a call from Linus on big blind. We can see both ranges here. They're not perfect and should be a little bit tighter because sizing here is a bit bigger and also there should be some ICM involved after late reg closed. Anyway, it wouldn't make a very big difference here and we go to post-flop with very wide ranges. On the flop, Leon Sturm decided to check back his ace-8 off. This flop looks pretty scary, but we have to keep in mind our ranges. And here the button has a pretty big advantage, so he should c-bet a lot. Let's look at both c-betting and defend against a bet from a BB at the same time. We can see that the button should bet with around 80% of hands, using mostly half-pot sizing. Despite the flop being very wet, this has very high fold equity because the big blind has a lot of trash that doesn't interact with this board at all. There is a lot of offsuit hands and quite a lot suited ones that will just fold to one bet. Also, Leon's hand has perfect blockers. Having an ace of clubs means that big blind can't have any of the ace-x of clubs, that will definitely continue, and his 8 of diamonds blocks some flush draws and a lot of straight draws. So his fold equity with his specific hand is much higher than with a random hand. 8 of clubs appear on the turn, and this is a card that big blind should donk bet quite a lot, with around 50% of hands. Linus did check, and Leon bet for 75% of the pot. This is the most used sizing in this situation, but not perfect with his actual hand, which should bet small here, so another mistake here by the German player. After big bet, Linus made a call and we go to the river. On the queen of clubs that completes backdoor flush draw, Linus checked and Leon fired another barrel for 75%. This is also not a thing with his holding. Ace-8 off with ace of clubs is just too good to bluff with and too weak to value bet. I had to lock his range, so in this scenario he has half of ace-8 off as a big bet. Linus raised all in, and we can see that he should be doing it with all the flushes and straights, and he shouldn't bluff here too much because button will get a very good price to call. So his few bluffs should come from turning some bad pairs with flush blocker like 9-6 off or ace-6 off. After this raise, Leon is put into a blender. He blocks some nut flushes, and after a very long tank he made the call for his tournament life. This is the best play in this hand, after taking this not so good line, but not like it's printing money here. We can see that solver mixes calls and folds, but calling with ace of clubs more often than not. Linus showed jack-6 off with jack of clubs, and if we go back to his range on the river, we see that this specific hand is a good candidate to bluff sometimes. Of course, we don't know his frequencies here, but if he turns all of these low pairs with a club kicker into bluff, he might be over bluffing by a lot, and then call by Leon becomes much better. Anyway, it's a hand played very well by Linus and not so good by Leon. But the last part of it, when he made an impressive call in a very hard spot, deserves some praise. I hope you liked this video, don't forget to subscribe and see you next time. Bye.